How are you guys doing? Today is Wednesday, March 16th, 2022. I'm James Simmons, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an elite individual profile for Joel Embiid. The elite Cameroonian center for the Philadelphia 76ers turned 28 today, and my intention with this episode is, of course, to shed light on what he's done from the moment that he stepped foot in the limelight, even at Kansas and even probably a little bit before. And of course, I'm going to follow him to where he is right now, and of course, I'm going to look in and zoom in and look at and focus on how he's been able to impact his teams on a micro level, game in, game out, season in, season out. And of course, I'm going to zoom out and look at how he's been able to affect the NBA and basketball as a whole on a micro level. He is a 7-foot player standing at about 280 pounds. If you're unfamiliar with Cameroon, people in Cameroon love soccer, and because Joel Embiid grew up playing a lot of soccer, he has incredible footwork that a lot of American centers just wouldn't be able to really kind of understand. And I think that's really what kind of gives him the edge. He has amazing touch. He has amazing awareness. He knows who's around him at all times. And at the same time, he really comes in and he brings the fire, and he's really ready to be as ferocious as he possibly can. I think that Joel Embiid is continuing the legacy of dominating centers, and I do not think that this season is an exception in the slightest. It might even be his best season to date. So, just to kind of get into his story, like I said, he's originally from Cameroon. He was originally discovered at a basketball camp by Luc Richard Mbah-a-Moute, who used to play in the NBA. I know he used to play for the Bucks specifically. After transfer, he would go on to move with his family to the United States to go on to play high school, and after moving around, after establishing himself as one of the best basketball prospects in Florida, because that's where he was playing, he would be named a 5-star recruit, and he would get recruited to play at Kansas with Bill Self. Joel Embiid would go on to play one season in college, and his one season in college would be his age 19 season in 2013-2014. In that season, he was kind of dealing with a little bit of injuries as well, but he would go on to earn his way. He would earn his starting spot. He would start 20 of the 28 games he played for a Kansas Jayhawks team that will go on to finish with a 25-10 record. This Kansas team will go all the way to the second round, and they would get knocked out, but Joel Embiid would end up suffering a stress fracture before the Big 12 tournament and the March Madness tournament. However, in the 28 games he played, he would start 20 of them. He averaged about 23 minutes a game. In those 23 minutes a game, he averaged 11.2 points while shooting 62% from the field on 6 shots a game. He would go on to shoot 20% from three, as he barely really attempted any threes all season. He only made 1 of 5 threes all season. He would go on to shoot 68% from the free throw line as well. And alongside his 11.2 points, he was averaging 8.1 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 0.9 steals, and he would average 2.6 blocks. These 2.6 blocks were especially noteworthy. In looking at his per 40 minutes, he was averaging 19.4 points, 14 rebounds, and 4.5 blocks per 40. After putting that season together, even though he didn't finish the whole year, he would be named to the second team All Big 12, establishing himself as one of the best 10 players in the conference. He would also be named the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year after averaging almost 3 blocks a game on just over 20 minutes. He would be named to the Big 12 All-Defensive Team, as of course that's what happens if you're the Big 12 Player of the Year, and he would be named to the Big 12 All-Newcomer Team as well. After establishing himself as one of the best one-and-done prospects in college basketball, Joel Embiid would be taken with the 3rd overall pick of the 2014 NBA Draft. He was 2 picks behind his former teammate and first-time All-Star this year, Andrew Wiggins. Looking at who else was in that draft, Zach LaVine, the All-Star shooting guard for the Chicago Bulls now, was drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves out of UCLA with the 13th pick in this draft. Nikola Jokic, the reigning NBA MVP, was taken with the 41st pick in the second round by the Denver Nuggets out of Serbia. So, of course, just to get a sense of who he came out with. I think it actually is interesting that he played his entire career from beginning to end with Nikola Jokic. But Joel Embiid would suffer a couple of injuries, like really bad injuries for his first couple seasons that would end up delaying his debut. After he would sign his first contract, he would break his navicular bone in his foot, which would make him miss the entire 2014-16 season. The first season that he missed, that would have been his rookie season, the Sixers ended up with an 18-64 record. This would be the third year in a row they missed the playoffs. This is when they started trusting the process. After Joel Embiid's second season, they would finish with the worst record in the NBA with a 10-72 record, as he would have to sit out this second season after he would after a CT scan revealed that his foot wasn't fully healed. So he had to get a second surgery on his foot, missing that season. That season, the Philadelphia 76ers were so bad that they ended up landing the first overall pick that next year, which ended up being Ben Simmons. But Ben Simmons would end up sitting out his next season as Joel Embiid would end up making his rookie debut. Joel Embiid's rookie debut would come 2 years later after he was drafted in his age 22 season in 2016-2017. He will go on to start all 31 of the games he played in a season where the Sixers would finish with a 28-54 record. They had 18 more wins than the prior season, as he would go on to be a Taco Bell Challenge skills participant. He would go on to tear his left meniscus, but surgery would not be required, but he would end up missing a good chunk of that season. In the 31 games he played for a team that missed the playoffs, he would average 20.2 points while shooting 46% from the field. He shot 36% from three as rookie, making at least 1 3 a game as a center. And he would go on to shoot 78% from the foul line, so incredible shooting numbers as a rookie. Alongside his 20.2 points per game, he would average 7.8 rebounds. He would average 2.1 assists, and he would average 2.5 blocks as well. His 2.5 blocks a game his rookie season are the highest average that he's ever had in a season. That's the only season he's averaged at least 2. And, of course, ever since his rookie season, he has averaged 20 points a game in every single season he's been in the NBA. There is not a long list of players that have done that every single year. And, of course, like I said, following that season, the Sixers would end up missing the playoffs. And, of course, because Ben Simmons was hurt, they would be missing Ben Simmons. But the next year would be the year that the 76ers became playoff contenders once Ben Simmons became an active player and once Joel Embiid started playing a full season. Embiid's his second season playing with the 76ers would be his first full season with them. It would be his age 23 season in 2017-2018. He started all 63 of the games he played in a season where the Sixers finished with a 52-30 record. They won 24 more games than they did the previous season. This is the season where Ben Simmons would win the Rookie of the Year, and as a starter in a full season for the first time, Joel Embiid would be named an All-Star. While averaging 5 more minutes per game, he was averaging 30 minutes. He would see his points per game jump up from 20.2 to 22.9, making it the second year in a row he averaged 20 points a game. He did all this while shooting 48% from the field. He shot 30% from three, 30.8%. He would also go on to shoot 77% from the foul line on the year. Alongside his 23 points per game, he would go on to average 11 rebounds. This would be the first time he's averaged a double-double in a full-time season. He averaged 3.2 assists. He would average 0.6 steals, which would be his career low in steals. And he would also average 1.8 blocks, doing it virtually on both ends. And then following this 2017-18 season itself, after Joel Embiid was named an All-Star for the very first time in his career, he would be named to the All-NBA second team for the very first time in his career, being named as one of the top 10 players in the NBA. And he would go on to make the NBA All-Defensive second team for the very first time in his career as well, as he was a top 10 offensive and defensive player in the league for the very first time in just his first year of being a starter. Once the 76ers would make the playoffs, however, they would end up beating the Miami Heat in the first round just to lose in the next round in the conference semis to the Boston Celtics. This is, of course, the year where the Golden State Warriors would go on to win their second straight. That was when KD won his second NBA Finals MVP. But of course, this would transition into Joel Embiid's third season with the Sixers. His age 24 season in 2018-19, I guess his fifth full season as a member of the organization, would see him start all 64 of the games he played in a season where the Philadelphia 76ers would finish with a 51-31 record. They would go on to win one less win than the prior season as they finished with the third best record in the East again. Embiid will go on to average 33.7 minutes a game, averaging 3.5 more minutes than he did his first All-Star season. In this year, he would see his points jump up from 23 to 27.5 points a game. This would be the first time he's averaged at least 25, and he would be 3 for 3 with averaging at least 20 points a game. He would average 27.5 points in his third year while shooting 48% from the field, 30% from three, which would be his career low, which is still pretty good for a center. He did all this while attempting 4 threes a game, which is his career high. He would also go on to shoot 80% from the free throw line. This would be the first time he would shoot at least 80% as a center. Alongside his 27.5 points, he would go on to average 13.6 total rebounds on the year, making it his second season that he's averaged a double-double. His 13.6 rebounds are his career high to date. He has not averaged more rebounds than he did in 2019. He would also go on to average 3.7 assists. He would average 0.7 steals and 1.9 blocks, as that would be a good all-around season. In his following this season, he would be named an All-Star for his second full season in the league. When the season came to an end, Joel Embiid would be named to the All-NBA second team for the second year in a row, proving that the first time he did it was no fluke, even though he's only played 30 games in his first 3 seasons. He would also go on to be named to the All-Defensive second team in the NBA as well, being named a top 10 offensive or a top 10 all-around and a top 10 player specifically on defense in the NBA. I think that goes a long way to prove that Joel Embiid is just not the average center. And then after being named to the second team in the NBA on offense and defense, he would help the Philadelphia 76ers make it to the playoffs. In the first round, they would end up beating the Nets in 5 before losing in the conference semifinals to the eventual champions Toronto Raptors, as they would end up losing this series on one of the craziest shot attempts of all time. Kawhi Leonard's crouched shot. The photo that lives in NBA history forever. But of course, following this matchup, Joel Embiid and the 76ers would jump right back into the playoff race. His third All-Star season, his 4th season with the Philadelphia 76ers, would be his age 25 season and the 2019-2020 season. This is the season that was remembered for having COVID impacted so much that it delayed the end of the season for about 3-4 months, and then it made the teams that were playoff contenders and it made the playoffs themselves be played in the Disney facility in Orlando. In his age 25 season, Embiid, but before the quarantine, Embiid would go on to be named an All-Star for the 3rd time in his career in a row. In this season, he would start all 51 of the games he played in a season where the Sixers would finish with a 43-30 record. They finished with the 6th best record in the East on that shortened season, as he would go on to average about 29.5 points per game, which is 4 minutes less than what he did the year before. He would average 23 points while shooting 47% from the field. He shot 33% from 3, and he would go on to shoot 80.7% from the foul line. This would be the second year in a row he shot at least 80% from the free throw line. His 23 points would be the 4th year in a row that he's averaged at least 20 in the NBA. And you put it alongside his 11.6 rebounds, it would be the 3rd season in a row that he averaged a double-double in the NBA. He would average 3 assists. He would average 0.9 steals as well and 1.3 blocks, which would be the least amount of blocks he would average in a season at the conclusion of this 2019-2020 season. In addition, the only accolade that he really would get would be being named to his 3rd All-Star game in his career. Once the Sixers made the playoffs this year, they would end up losing. They got swept in the first round by the Boston Celtics. And then this would, of course, lead to the last full season that Joel Embiid had with the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid's 5th season with the Sixers would be his age 26 season with the Sixers last year in 2020-2021. And this is, of course, the 7th year that he was on the Sixers franchise. In his last full season, he would start all 51 of the games he played for a Sixers team that would finish with the best record in the East. They finished with a 49-23 record after they won 6 more games in the prior year. In the 51 games he played, Joel Embiid would, of course, play All-Star basketball, making his fourth All-Star game. He would average 31 minutes a game, which was about a minute and a half more than what he did the year prior. He would see his points jump up from 23 to 28 and a half. At that point, that would be his career high for his first half decade of his career. He averaged 28.5 points while shooting 51% from the field. This would be the very only season in his career so far that he shot at least 50% from the field. He shot 37% from three, which is also a career high to date, and he made more than 1 3 a game to do it. He would do all this while shooting 85% from the foul line, which to this day is also a career high in that particular statistical category. That would be the third season in a row that he would shoot at least 80% from the foul line, and the first season he shot at least 85%. Alongside his 28.5 points, he averaged 10.6 rebounds, which would be the fourth season in a row that he's averaged a double-double. He would average 2.8 assists. He averaged a full steal, which would be the first time he's averaged a full steal in his career. And he averaged 1.4 blocks, making it the fifth season in a row he's averaged at least a block. And it'll be the first season in his career he would average at least a steal and a block. At the conclusion of the 2021 season, in addition to being named an All-Star for the fourth time in his fourth full season, Joel Embiid would be named to the All-NBA second team for the third time in a 4-year stretch. The 1 year missing, he was 2020, the quarantine year. He would also go on to make the all-defensive second team as well for the third time in that 4-year stretch, being named a top 10 player on both offense and defense, as of course it's tough to beat out Rudy Gobert on defense. But of course, once the 2021 season would come to an end, the Philadelphia 76ers would end up beating the Wizards in the first round before getting humiliated in the conference semifinals by the 5th seed Atlanta Hawks. After the Sixers as a team kind of really collapsed, it led into a snowball effect that would see Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid's original co-star, leave, and it would see this season originally lead to where we are right now, as Joel Embiid is now sitting at 28 years old with a brand new superstar teammate who used to be the MVP of the NBA, James Harden. He joined in the middle of the season. But looking at what Joel Embiid has done so far, right now Joel Embiid is in his 6th full season playing in his 8th year with the 76ers organization. Of course, saying that because he missed his very first 2 due to his foot injury. He would start as of right now, he started all 55 of the games he's played for a Philadelphia 76ers team that is currently in playoff contention. They're holding the 3rd best record in the East. As with one more win, they will clinch yet another winning record. For the Philadelphia 76ers, if they were to win this game, this would be the 5th season in a row with Joel Embiid that they would have finished with a winning record. So, of course, congratulations to them. The Sixers are sitting 3.5 games out of first place. To get a sense of how close they are, they're only a game behind the defending champions Milwaukee Bucks. But looking at how Joel Embiid has been playing for the Sixers this year, I believe he was their only All-Star, if we're not counting James Harden because he didn't play All-Star basketball for the Sixers. He did it for the Nets. This season, Joel Embiid would go on to make his 5th All-Star game, making it a half-decade straight of All-Star level basketball. He would average 2 more minutes than he did last year, or right now he's averaging 33 minutes a game. This season, he is currently leading the league in scoring just slightly over LeBron James. He's averaging 29.9 points per game, which right now would go down as his career high when he's played just as many games as he had virtually in his other seasons. He's doing all of this while shooting 48% from the field on a career high amount of field goal attempts and field goals made. He's making about 9.3 of them a game on 19.3 attempts. He's also shooting 36% from 3 while making at least a 3 a game. He is also going on to shoot 82% from the foul line. This is the 3rd year in a row that he's shooting, or this is the 4th year in a row he's shooting at least 80% from the foul line. Not to mention, this is also the 2nd year in a row he's shooting at least 36% from 3. And then in addition to averaging his 29.9, averaging nearly 30 points a game, he's averaging 11.3 rebounds, 4.3 assists. He's averaging just over a steal, and he's averaging a block and a half a game. So far this season isn't over, but thus far he's already been named an All-Star. It looks as though it's an inevitability that he will be named to an All-NBA team, as he is a very big part of the reason that the Sixers are playing so well. It's very possible that he could end up with MVP votes this season. season, the most that he's had at least up until now. And it does look like Joel Embiid is a thriving basketball player who looks to be getting better and better, especially as he ages, especially as he becomes more accustomed to NBA speed, and especially as he becomes more dominant in understanding of what he's able to do with what his body can do, especially at that time. With that said, I do want to first thank the Collegiate and the Pro Basketball Reference websites for giving me all the stats and figures that I needed. I want to thank everyone for listening to all 20 minutes. If you ever get a chance to watch Joel Embiid, I would. He wears number 26 with the he wears number 21 with the Philadelphia 76ers. Now playing with Harden, I think he and Harden make the Philadelphia 76ers a favorite. I can't wait to see what he does in this next calendar year, but I think it'll be amazing. I mean, knock on wood, like if he stays completely healthy during this run. With that said, once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done, I will come back tomorrow on Thursday, March 17th. And once all of today's, once we come around the sun, do a full 365-day rotate, or I guess 365-day orbit, I will hopefully be back here with another episode for Joel Embiid for his 29th birthday. So until then, thanks for listening. Today is Wednesday, March 16th, 2022. I'm James Sims. This is The Elite. Thanks for listening to my piece, and peace out. I will catch you with more tomorrow.